What is going on, you beautiful people? Anish Majumdar here, career coach to the fiercely ambitious. So happy that you are here to join me on this rapid fire training where I'm going to show you exactly what employers are looking for when they make that 6-second pass of your resume. There are certain key criteria that you need to know. And if you play to it, it is going to make whatever your goal is for this year happen that much faster, because there is no, in matrix parlance, there is no getting to that next thing, whether it's a new offer, a new role, an industry change, an up level, that promotion, that increase doesn't happen without a resume that works, a resume that is effective, a resume that is in line with where you are right now. So if you're excited, and if you can hear me right now, please do me a favor. I would really appreciate it if you could just drop in a comment right now and say, yes, I can hear you, or all clear, or I'm excited, or let's freaking go, or it's time, or show me the money, or just a couple of those 100 emojis that I love saying. Here's a confession. My kids are too young, but honestly, when I want to get pumped up, I'll listen to like old school 90s hip hop. That's my thing, right? So that 100 emoji is all good. Love it. Okay. So let me just double check, because I want to make sure I can get to your questions as well as we go through this training, all of your resume questions. If you guys can see me, could I ask you guys to just drop in oh, let's see here. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you so much. Jamie. Guys, what's up? I'm so happy to see you guys here. I celebrate each and every one of you guys. Can we just say this? Thank you for making the time after all of the craziness of what we've all experienced over these last couple of weeks. Thank you for making the time for your career. And I give you my word, I want to be as fluff light as possible and as informative as I possibly can be. And thank you, Yogi. Thank you so much, Teresa. Thank you, Stefan, Ricardo. Amazing people. It's time. Hell yeah, dude. Appreciate that. By the way, guys, you're going to see right on that screen, I've prepared a checklist for each and every one of you that just consolidates the training I'm about to give you here. It's free for everyone who's taking it. I'm going to give you the link to it right at the end of this session, and I'll drop it in the comments as well. I just want to set the right context for it so that you can get the most value, but I really want to make sure that you guys leave like truly with the best of what I can teach you here. I've spent about 12 plus years now. It's hard to imagine that now. And I've worked personally with over 1,700 other high performers in getting them out of career traps, dramatically speeding up their job search, getting them out of what seemed to be impossible things like a boss that makes them feel like crap for years and has this negative pull on their value, getting them into new industries. I've seen it all. And I really want you guys to know, both as a job seeker and then for many years afterwards, I don't know if any of that I ever felt fully 100% confident in the resume. That's where, like, it's so hard to be impartial, isn't it? Like, it's really, really hard to like look at it and say, because it's your journey, right? Because it's Stefan's journey, or it's Stephanie's journey, or Jamie's journey. How can you possibly, quote unquote, encapsulate all of this into a 1-page, 2-page, 3-page document? The answer is, and let me just say this, I can't. No resume will be able to encapsulate the truth and the value of what you can bring. That takes years. It takes experience. It takes getting to know. But here's the great thing. You don't have to do that. Your resume does not have to be all things to all people. Absolutely not. In fact, whatever your major target is here, I can tell you after 12 plus years, and I made my bones first and foremost as a resume writer. You know, nowadays, you know, I teach a full system for showing people how to generate their own opportunities, doing it at a high level. But it all started from that kernel. And I put in the blood, sweat, and tears. And my wife will tell you, the very first resume that I ever developed for a client, I thought it would take me, I was like, I'm a smart guy, take me 45 minutes. It took me 9.5 hours. And when I came out, I was sharing an apartment with my wife at the time, girlfriend at the time. I came out and I made a prediction that was totally wrong. Thank God. I said, Aaron, I will never look at or deal with another goddamn resume ever again. Okay. I was serious. I was on, it was the most frustrating thing I'd ever done. Okay. So I really just want you to know, it comes from that complexity and you're trying to find to make your way. But I can tell you, having seen what works and what doesn't, having been in contact with job seekers, recruiters, high-level leaders, CEOs, COOs. I'm in touch with them. I know what they're about. I know what their priorities are at, because it's my butt and my team's butt on the line to make sure that what we're doing, especially when we're developing it, and especially when I'm teaching you, makes sense. So I just want you to know you're in good hands. I've got you covered, okay? So just a little request as we go through this. I guess the first thing before this tip here is if you could just take a second to pull up your resume, that would be really great. It's really important to me that what we go through here, that I want to apply it immediately to what you've got going on. And you might say, hey, look, I'm not in job search mode. I just want to be safe. Great, pull it up. You might say, Anish, if you could see this freaking thing, you would plots and then you would go crawling for Red Cross help. I get it. I'm not judging, okay? But I want you to look at, if it's theoretical, it's unlikely that you're going to use it. And I want each and every one of you guys, if you cared enough about your career, what's going, make these changes practical. Because if you can do that, 5%, 6%, 8%, resume, LinkedIn, how you network, a little change to how you interview. Dude, you might think that those are minuscule. That therein is a transformation in terms of the activity and the closed offers in hand, okay? So wherever you are, you want to make sure that this thing is playing ball, okay? And so please, if you can just take a second, whatever state it's in, just have it up as we go through this. Put on notes, put on comments, put on however your workflow is. If you're old school like me, you might have old school notes and this going here. But I promise you, this is going to be a really, really good, roughly 30 minutes or so. I'll do my best to keep it tight. But if you could mark the questions just at the start, okay? Drop it in. This is a LinkedIn Live. Drop it right into the comments. If you could just start it with a Q+, that'll allow me to identify it. And obviously, as we go through the training, I'll do my best. And at the end, I'll try to reserve a couple of minutes to go through as many of those. Anything that I missed, though, I'm going to be making some extra time today. You guys are my focus. I want to make sure that I can get to as many of those as possible. If you're looking for help, you need help, and I want to make sure that I can give it to you here and we can make some real tangible progress. Okay? So, by the way, guys, for those of you who are not first degree connected with me, come on, you're taking a class with me. Hey, hook me up. I'm a dad to 3, 8, 5, and 3. I get beaten up on the regularly, voluntarily by them, all right? Do me a huge solid, all right? Take a second. I'd love to connect personally with you. And if I can make an introduction, if I can help you in any way, consider it done, all right? But I would really appreciate that. You can just, if we're not directly connected, you can just hop over to the search bar for a second, put in Anish career, and I should pop up. There's not that many Anish plus careers, I promise you. All right. So let's go into the first point. Okay. And it's not a specific resume tip so much as it is something you must know. All right. I would be totally irresponsible if I sat here and I said, look, here's the change you make to better integrate your keywords. Here's the change you make to make the verbiage pop. Here's the change you make to address a work gap. Here's the change you make if you're like, dude, it looks like I took a demotion even though I didn't, right? I'm going to hit you up and I'm going to address all of that for you as much as I can. But it would be absolutely irresponsible for me to say word one about any of that without saying this. Because this would be like me, as a doctor, and God knows that would have been, for my Indian mom, just me saying the word doctor. Oh God. There, that would have been, so if I was a doctor, okay, that would be the same as me seeing like Stefan had a serious illness. And because I didn't want to be bothered, I give you a prescription for a couple of Advil. So here's what I'm saying to you here, okay, to all of you guys, okay? The role that your resume plays is easily the number one most important factor in its success. Now, you might ask, what do you mean? There's only one way to use a resume, to which I would say, not at all, okay? If you're thinking something like that, you're probably thinking of it in terms of a job posting. Makes sense, right? You're applying for jobs or you're building a relationship and someone says, hey, send me a copy of your resume. Jamie, I'd love that copy of your resume. You know what I mean? And so you send it, right? And so you're like, hey, that's the one function. In that case, you would need to establish authority. You would need to establish some kind of alignment with what they're after. I don't mean in terms of skills. I mean in terms of what's their why, what's the change they're looking to make. You're looking to have some unique value there, right? You need to have a hook, right? Those would be some of the things that you would think about to maximize. Think about it strategically for a second before we get into the details. That would be some of the things that you would need there. But that's not the only usage of a resume. Here's another one. There is no role, right? Nearly 90% of executive roles, the need is identified and the offer is created around the need, but there is no job posting. So in that kind of a scenario, me or Jamie or Stefan or Stephanie, any of us, you build a relationship first. Maybe it was strategic and it was directed on your part. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe you just built that relationship. You guys are exchanging value. You get to talking about what's actually going on. Hey, Jamie, can you do me a favor? I want to talk to you more about this, but can you forward me that resume and then maybe we can just get on each other's books for next week. In which case, yes, you need authority, but it's less important, isn't it? The first impression has already been handled in some sense, right? And if your LinkedIn is playing ball in a certain way, in that case, the resume is more about deepening what started on a face-to-face, right? You don't need to establish everything, right? Which is why answering job postings can feel like such a long shot, because remember all those things I just said about alignment, about all of that, right? How are you going to know all of that through a job posting, especially when most of the time they're not being honest with you, they're just giving you the BS. So you could align to that as much as you want. You could be in perfect alignment, but you're not getting to the truth, right? In the second situation that I've just described, right? You've started the ball rolling on the relationship. You've started the ball rolling in terms of identifying ideally what's going on there, or what's keeping this person up at night, what's keeping their team up at night, what's working, what's not. In which case, the resume needs to basically back up all of the good, warm feelings I have about Jamie. And thank you guys so much for being used as first name examples. I appreciate that a lot. I feel like a bit like a comedian being like to the front row, hey, don't worry. All right, this is all good. It's all positive. I wouldn't call you out if I wasn't already a believer in what you're bringing, okay? But you understand what I'm saying. Here's another one. You're in the interview process. It's maybe interview 2, maybe it's interview 3. Right? But before you get the actual written offer, guess what? The senior leadership team, including one hard ass, sends an email saying, hey, I want to see give me your resume. I want to see this because I've got people in my network, I would have plugged them in. No, they don't. But I want to see it. I want to have a hand, Back in my days when I was an actor, I was a film and TV actor in my teens and in my early 20s. I would see this on the set of commercials, You have the one person or two people who are actually driving things. That might be you and your team, by the way. That might be you in your company, right? 5% of a company, 10%, and we're talking a world-class company. 90% is chaff, basically, by comparison, right? You got this person who's doing all of this stuff. You got one or two people, the producer, you got the director, and then you got one person at the nth hour who has to chime in, before they can just give you what you deserve, right? Before they give you your just desserts, they gotta have their opinion, right? So in that case, what does your resume need to do? It's not as much about authority, although that's nice. Unique value, sure. But a person like this is not looking for unique value either. They're looking for reassurance, right? So you need to have a bit of a pedigree. You need to have a little bit of a background there. There needs to be some alignment in terms of industry standards and that growth. And there needs to be some clarity in terms of that narrative, right? I shouldn't need a PhD to make sense of your journey. This is true for all of you. If I can't look at your journey, whether it's on LinkedIn or the resume, 6 to 10 seconds, I should be able to see a rise. I should be able to see risks taken. I should be able to see some degree of creativity in terms of, do you understand what your true worth is? And I should be able to see some energy, some vitality, some forward motion, right? I shouldn't see someone who is entirely passive and waiting around for the spark of a job or the spark of some third party. I don't like that. I shouldn't see someone who, you got a VP title, but the brand is glorified college graduate. I don't like that. That is misalignment. By the way, that third example on the resume, that's a big reason people get passed over. You look at this resume, it might be world class. But nowadays, we're looking for synchronicity, right? Trust comes from that, right? When I pull up your LinkedIn profile, Jamie or Stephanie, or when I pull up your resume, when I look at that, I should see not repetition, but I should see, hey, this is the same person, right? This is the same stance, basically, right? That we're talking about. If I don't see that, problem, right? So all of these things And this is part of the difficulty of a resume. The resume needs to move to that. But my advice to you is, no matter how humble it feels, the most important thing I can tell you guys, if in this coming year you can allow yourself some permission to start playing ball in those other domains. In other words, if you're in job posting mode, fine. Okay, use what we're going to go through here to have a better resume and increase that uptick, right? But if, at best, 80 to 90% of the applications get rejected, maybe 5 to 10% even get a response, make a commitment to say, hey, instead of pouring more hours, right, into the job boards, can you invest 20 minutes a day, Monday through Friday, in building some relationships, hopping on LinkedIn, doing a reach out? You'll get better at it. You can get training, you can get help if you want. But even if you took that modicum of time, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, okay? I want to let at least 3 to 5 people in my network know I appreciate them. I want to add some value. I want to demonstrate some curiosity, whatever that is. It's like in a gym. You know what they tell you? It changed my life, right? I have diabetes in my family and all this. It was a real concern. The best advice I ever got, Anish, just hang out at the gym. What? Don't need a plan. Stop sweating out about that. I know you're a bookworm, which I am. Go to a gym and hang out. Go to the YMCA and hang out with your book. No plan. No workout clothes if you don't want to. But you know what's going to happen? You spend a little time. You spend a little time. You spend a little time. All of a sudden, you're not judging things like LinkedIn anymore. You're not judging all of these people who are somehow worse than you by networking or selling and stuff like that. You're going to notice there's a lot of people here doing a lot of things, right? And as you do that, guess what? Your mind, the same thing that brought you to this place, is going to start saying, hey, can we get some ROI here? Let's not just hang around. That's what it was for me. I have a library. I have an office. Guess what? If I'm at a gym, why don't we try that freaking medicine ball, right? Why don't we try that freaking thing, right? Habitualize a little bit and watch how easy it is to start generating a new stream, a new kind. That's going to add vitality. It's going to add confidence. It's going to add strength. When you start understanding it's not just a one-way show. It's not just about sucking at the teat of these bullshit job postings, that there's other things that you can do, you can make motion happen. Guys, actor turned journalist turned author turned career coach. And the reason I was able to do that, the mad discovery, was I realized that everyone is just chugging along the stupid one pathway while people are crying out for help. Businesses are crying out for help. Businesses are willing to pay top dollar. Take some of this weight off of me, but I can't do it through hiring. It's too freaking expensive to go that way. I don't like dealing with the bullshit. I don't like dealing with the cold. But if you got to know me, if you cared about me, if you took an interest, if it was clear that it wasn't just a LinkedIn profile or you trying to sell me on being a better candidate, now I got something, right? So I really want you to think about this. Use the resume and use the improvements we're about to go through in all of its facets, not just in job posting, in relationship building, in closing, right? That's how you maximize the ROI of everything that you're developing, right? So looking at your resume, I want to ask you this. Take a look at the companies, all right? Now I'll share a couple of examples here, but I want you to apply this to you, all right? If it moves you forward, I want you to do it, and I want you to celebrate it, and I want you to celebrate with your family, and then I want you to send me an email and give me some credit in terms of that, because I love that. That keeps me in the game. When I see people like you succeed, get it over these stupid companies, it makes me joyous, dude. I feel like the Joker when I see guys like you shine, shine, shine. Don't accept, right? So take a look at your companies in your work history. Do the companies clearly stand out? Here's what I mean by that, okay? The titles of the companies, right? If you have placeholders, you know what I mean? Like consulting, ask yourself, is there a fix for that, right? If you were doing consulting work between 2012, 2014, and 2017 and 2018, and then you did some post-pandemic for a year, why have these 3 things? Because it kind of looks a little bit scattershot, right? Here's what you can do. I did this. You could go to your city hall. You could do a DBA or something similar today, right? Business name. Now in your resume, you have one section, all right? Now, and I'll show you an example. One section that basically consolidates all of those years, right? It allows you to basically say you were running your own shop, named this, your own consulting business, advisory business, whatever, right? That started at 2012, went all the way up to present, right? You can own it, it's yours, and then you've got all of this. And now instead of being like a job hopper with 3 or 4 or 5 different things, you've taken ownership, right? It pops out. For the company names, many of you are, your companies that you worked for in the past got bought out. So you're using the present company, but that has no name recognition whatsoever, right? Got to put in the former company as well. It costs you nothing to do that. It is an advantage without any disadvantage. By the way, that's the way I like to run my business. That's the way I like to run my career. I like to make the types of actions that will make a positive difference and move me and give me a sharper spearhead no matter what. Look at your companies. If there's randomness going on, that's an issue. If there's no name recognition, and there should be, all you need, guys, you put in, I'm just making this up, Johnson & Johnson, and then in brackets, former company, right? Boom. Now you got the name recognition of them both going on, right? Take a look at that, right? Is there clarity there, right? Is there a sense of a build? It's very, very simple, right? But you want to make sure that there's some degree of a point of view in terms of this. What they don't want to see is, okay, I got all these companies. They're all over the place. They have, some are in this industry, some are here. I don't understand. Here's a nice little fix for that, okay? If you have a journey that was operating in 2 very different things, like let's say, it's fine, you're in high tech right now, but let's say, 12 years ago, or maybe 8 years ago, 6 years ago, you were operating in a different capacity. One thing you might want to consider is in your professional experience section, instead of it being just one thing, look, anytime you're looking at your resume, and if you're doing it right now, you've got to pay attention to this. If you're looking at it and saying, people will figure it out. No, they won't. They won't. They're not going to figure it out. They're not going to put the parts together. They're not going to assume the best. They won't. You got to make it obvious. You got to make it so that your 5-year-old can look at it and get some sense of what's there. It's got to be click, click, over the hammer, right? Very obvious. No one has the time to put together insinuations unless you make it clear, unless you show it. So, a fix. Instead of it just being professional experience only, high-tech experience, 20 to present, and you got the relevant roles there and all that. We'll talk about that. And then you've got nonprofit, whatever the other industry was, right? Nonprofit experience, right? So you make a delineation, right? And the top third, by the way, which we'll talk about, all important, the top third of the resume is completely branded towards high tech, right? It is establishing you as a unique leader with a process at the top. It's got a tight selection of keywords there, right? And then it goes into what is relevant. That way, you get the advantage. And by the way, not obviously, but the way you want to think about it, not all roles should get equal room in your resume, right? So if I'm targeting high tech, my thing is roughly 2 pages. By the way, the higher level you go, the shorter your resume should get, by the way, right? Because you should be having a better, clearer understanding of how you can partner with people, not a laundry list of figure it out, right? So if you have that separation going, I could spend 2/3 of the resume, top third, all industry centric, keywords, industry centric, then high-tech experience, and that takes up basically the majority. I got nonprofit, and maybe instead of it being even separate roles, I just got a bullet point for every major role, or I could even have a couple of highlights, couple of major marquee highlights of impact, right? Because that has value no matter what, right? I want to focus on the big picture. Guys, you got to learn to think about what you're doing outside of the industry. I almost got into a shouting argument I'll say it. I did get into a shouting argument with one of my best friends a couple of days ago because this guy is in finance and tell me if you guys, if this resonates with you, if you agree or disagree, I want to hear from you right now, okay? He has spent his life in finance. He has risen up in multiple companies, led teams, been responsible for multiple areas of authority, driven impact. Okay? But what he tells me is he can never leave finance. He can't even really leave this company because what he does is so specialized, it only works there. Wrong. That is a failure of the candidate. I don't know one person. out of those 1,700 other people I've worked with, the 10,000 me and my team are planning with, I don't know one person that when we dove into it, when we dove into the nuts and bolts of what they did, and we started playing around with the camera, and we started seeing, hey, marketing towards what? Macro analysis towards what? When we started doing that, everyone's got a process. In fact, everyone has 20. That is fear masquerading as no one else gets me. If they don't get it, you haven't done the work. You haven't walked to them. You haven't moved to where they need to be. You haven't done this work to meet people where you are. You're still stuck in this zone of they're going to get it. They're going to pick it up. Why do I even need it? At my industry or at my level, I shouldn't even bother. Then don't wonder why traction is not happening this year. I'm telling you, the number one thing that makes a resume work is you can tell in 5 seconds, this person was thinking about one person, me. This person was thinking, what's important to me? What resonates with me? In an ego-less fashion, but effective, this person is setting themselves up to meet me where I am right now. That makes for offers every time. So, do your companies clearly stick out, right? And I'll show you a couple of examples as well that'll demonstrate all of these. Number 3, chronological format. This will be short, guys. Got to do it. There is no ifs, ands, or buts. The only exception I would say is maybe if you're fresh out of college, the experience is not really that relevant. You can make that top third of the resume a little bit longer and then consolidate. Otherwise, chronological is the way to go. Not interested in the excuses, guys. Not when it comes to this. I've already told you that you can do things like you can separate out the industries. You can do that. You need to get creative about what? Working within the format that works for the majority, right? If everyone's using MS Word and the thing that's stopping you from getting a 6-figure offer is a resume in MS Word, yeah, WordPerfect was really good. But guess what I'm not going to be recommending you use, right? We got to be practical about this. Chronological, that means you got the opening that goes towards impact, right? You're talking about what is the change that you make happen. You got that opening, the keywords, etc. I'll share some examples of that in just a few minutes. Then you've got your experience section, right? That goes from most recent to at least the most. If all of your experience is relevant, the last 10 years is really where I wanna immediately see unbelievable value, right? That means in page 1, I got to see some stuff. Do what you got to do, right? And if you need help, invest in it for the love of God. I was buying a couch over the Christmas break, and you see people dropping 4 or 5K, but they would never think about doing that when it comes to your own career, the thing that makes you money. Like, I don't know about you, I'll sleep on the floor. You understand? To make the changes happen, to take care of my family, to get where we need to go. I don't understand how we could have been so beaten up by teachers, bosses, etc., that the idea of you advancing yourself is somehow traitorous, selfish. The last priority, after every other person's needs have been met, then comes you. I don't understand that. I don't get that. I don't accept it. Neither should you, by the way. If you don't, how are you possibly going to win over someone at the higher level? There is, of course, a psychological element to all of this stuff. We can talk about chronological formats all we want, guys. But there's a human thing here. We're talking about the arena, right? Action verbiage. Let's talk about that for a second. Take a look at your resume. Every single sentence, aside from maybe that top third, should have a clarity of tense, right? Current company can be in the present tense, or you can just keep everything in the past tense, including the current company. That's a nice resume format that you can use, right? So everything can be in past tense, but you've got to start with that action word, which is weird, right? But you've got to hew to that, because immediately if you write it in normal conversational English, all it is amateur. Amateur, right? Like if I'm looking at a deal, there's certain structures that have got to be there. Those of you who are in management consulting, you know what I'm talking about. You can maybe get an outcome doing it the other way, but it's an outlier, right? So what does that mean? You want to think about, let me actually share a couple of examples right here. Just bear with me for one sec. I'm going to share my entire screen so you guys can see a little bit of what I'm talking about here, okay? So this is what I meant, by the way, about consolidating, right? So I'm taking all of that 2014 and moving it, right, into one section. You could absolutely do this, right? Now, transformed, overhauled, recognized as, trained and monitored, right? Managed, maximized ROI. I'm going to the outcome. Not only am I using the action words, I'm trying to show you the why. Why do you care? Why should you give a crap? Right at the beginning, right? Built a robust and highly capable IT framework. Why? That's interesting. How did we do that, right? Spearheaded concept through launch of new. I'm not waiting longer than sorry guys, I'm not waiting longer than the very first line before getting to outcome and level, right? Right there, right? Because I know you're not going to be reading into the next one, or at least I'm going to assume that, right? Same thing here, right? Achieved major gains through labor productivity management system. What the hell is that, right? It's that kind of a way of thinking, this kind of a verbiage, okay? Led mobilization of, I'm giving you the scale, right? I'm telling you right now, even if you don't know about Army Reserve healthcare professionals, right? The fact that I mobilized 2,500 of them, hey, kind of interesting, isn't it? Kind of unique, isn't it? Right? Led 57-person team, right? So so this is where I'm looking at this, and when I was working with this client, you're like, look, the U.S. Army experience is fantastic, right? You got to highlight the transferable aspects. You're noticing how much of this is talking about the day-to-day. For those of you who have a military background, you know I'm not talking at all about the day-to-day there. There's probably like 0.0% of 1% of what one might be in a job description, right? I'm thinking about what is the impact that aligns with where this person is going, right? This person is driving lean process improvement in a very unique way, right? So what might be useful to highlight about a person like that? His leadership, his strategic planning excellence, his getting new things off the ground, his freaking kicking ass on the global war on terror. This is freaking awesome stuff, man. Right? So this is what I'm highlighting. Guys, you have such opportunity to control the conversation, not just your first impression, but the conversation you have, dependent on things like your resume, right? If you're frustrated that you're just being tasked with executing things versus strategic priorities, I want to ask you, take a look at your resume right now. How much of it is just sharing responsibilities versus talking about those strategic details, right? It's all about this push and pull that we're talking about here, you know? Exactly. Fearful of change. I really appreciate these comments, guys. Good, bad, or ugly, you know, and tell me if you guys, you know, hear me on this. There's a little bit of this like cult of silence when it comes to people's careers. You know, I was recently working with someone, senior VP in investment management, found out by accident that a junior team member of hers, like many years her junior, was making exactly what she was making. And this is a company that she had given her entire working life to. When they asked, they said it was an accident. But guys, here's what I'm telling you. You know what I said about making the important things blindingly obvious? That's what protecting yourself is about too. Being strategic, right? Making sure that the verbiage is high level. Now, job hopper, okay? These are all ways that you are protecting yourself and setting a high level and establishing that all-important authority and unique value before you ever get involved, right? Before you go into that one-on-one. That's what a resume should do at its best, right? At its best, a resume should get you so freaking excited, right? To be with Amanda here. It's like, before I even meet her, it's like I'm looking at this resume and I'm like, hell freaking yes, right? I'm going preach, Amanda, for you, your journey before you come in that door. Here's what I'm not doing, and here's a sign of a resume that is really not serving you, okay? The thing inspires doubt and it inspires silence. If that's happening, dude, we gotta fix it, right? Job hopper perception. Okay. As I said, there are ways to address the work gap part, for sure. If you have had multiple roles all at the same company, right? You don't have to separate each and every one of them out into individual ones. Here's what I mean. Let's say company X, Y, and Z between the year that you started. By the way, a nice way to eliminate, if you have some short work gaps, there's nothing wrong with making the years of your resume, like make it year only. You don't have to do it like month and year. And guys, let's be adults about this. No company, no leader worth his or her salt is expecting you to spend your entire life working jobs without how they're having priorities. If you've raised families, if you've raised children, if you addressed other life priorities, career priorities, it's okay, but you gotta broach it. You gotta broach it. You can't ignore, and again, running theme, right? Assume that they're just gonna get it or not gonna notice. They absolutely will. They absolutely will. It doesn't take a genius to do that. So for a job, for the job hopper thing, here's one. If you worked at company X, X between these years, but you had like 3-4 roles, right? You're getting a lot of flack for it. It's like, hey, how come you only spent, a year here? You spent, year, maybe they don't know. It's like, dude, that's success. That's that was happening. Okay. Have it be under the job title. Have the current role be the main one, and you could put current role, director of IT. And then underneath, you can put in prior roles and then just list them all in sequence, right? So IT manager, senior, IT you could have the individual years, like in brackets for all of that. So you're not hiding anything. So everything is operating under the umbrella of the company, right? And it's operating under the focal point of your current role. And then you've got all the priors there, right? And what you want to have in terms of the body of the resume for something like that is you want to basically exclusively highlight the biggest marquee accomplishments, impact right from the get-go. Get a sense of what your biggest scale and scope was. So if along the years you grew to managing a 200-person team and an $80 million budget, we're leading off of that. Built, managed, and mentored an 86-person or 80-person plus global team and $80 million budget in rewriting the capabilities of this company across X, Y, Z. And then I'm going into success. And then I'm out. That's it, right? I'm controlling the narrative. I'm not trying to answer all of the questions, guys. A big mistake I see, all right? And I want you guys to be aware of it. I see desperation in resumes masquerading as trying to dot the I's and cross the T's. But we don't need you to be a good student about this. We need you to own the high level, right? To put it very simply, I answered this in a question one of you guys had in the lead up to this. An IT manager could have a 3 to 4 page resume that lists all their tech skills and all that. A high-powered CTO of a Fortune 50 company or a Fortune 5 company or a unicorn company can have a 1-page resume that gets this crystallized and down clear. Why? Because for a CTO, for me to look at this and see, dude, it's like, I know, I don't want to, you're missing the point by highlighting that, because that's not, hiring a CTO is not about that, right? There's any number of people that I can do. I need a partner to the business who sees things the way that we see it, who shares our deep priorities, who has the superpower of tech, who has the superpower of being able to do it. That is a very different proposition than someone who just got better at managing people, managing tech, and is basically positioning themselves as a glorified IT manager, right? We're not going to give that level of impact to a glorified IT manager, because the change, when I look at the resume, when I look at the brand, I can tell the change hasn't happened in you. So I'm definitely not putting our company up as the guinea pig for you, right? Not unless you've also started by having the balls to say, yeah, what do I stand for right now, right? What is differently? And I'm asking you guys, do you have the balls to do that? Do you have the courage to do that? I know that as I've seen people go further in their careers, it's kind of gone a little bit like this. Either you go down the path of taking more and more ownership and taking more and more pleasure and joy. It's like the opening of what you can experience in your life goes like this. Or you get better at excuses, justifications, and convincing yourself, your loved ones, everyone around you, your children, why the limited life in front of you is what you wanted all along. And I've been in both places, dude. I've been in both. I was borderline suicidal as an actor in my last couple of years, making $12,000 a year. I know the feeling, but it is a choice, right? You can either be ballsy about getting what you want right now, or just accept the fact that it's not going to happen. Because if the initiative isn't there, that's like trying to run a car without the spark plug. You got to have it. So, why you, pal? Which we, by the way, the checklist I'm about to share with you guys definitely goes deeper into. Why you, pal, is easily one of the clearest things that need to be answered, and it needs to be answered, by the way, before you get into the experience section. Okay, so let me share with you what I mean by that. I'm just going to pop this in here. If I were to look at another example here. Okay, so I can't wait until here. Like halfway down the page is gone, right? Especially on that 6-second scan, right? You've got to answer why you? Why in the midst of 100 different priorities? I have a whiteboard here with all the strategic priorities I have to get to this week, this month, this year, right? I got all this stuff. How are you going to get my attention? Why you, pal, right? That's the question, right? And so I need to control this real estate. This right here, this first third is the most important part of your resume. It lives and dies based on this. It has to work. It has to work. It has got to be gangbusters. And you've got to answer it beyond simply doing a tap dance that is the same thing as the professional experience section. You need to do something differently here, right? So a healthcare innovator who can do what? Make these big 3 changes happen in his or her unique way, right? Now I got the human part. I want to make it clear. This isn't just a branding exercise. This is what I believe. This is what I take ownership from. Then I go into explaining a different facet, right? I go deeper into that unique value, deeper into that authority. You see that 13 years? That's an authority play, right? This is all thought out. Now, what works really well in that third point, something people-driven, something team-driven, right? Something about being a mission-driven leader, something that aligns there, right? This type of an ownership here, it's instilling confidence and it's aligning to the mission, right? Now, the way to do this here and handle this is one thing. The keywords, though, which really trips up a lot of people, this should not be crazily difficult, okay? Let's solve this right now. The biggest reason resumes get bounced by applicant tracking systems is because it's not that people are ignoring keywords, because at this point, I think it's pretty clear that if you're coming in cold, it's going to play an important role. You're drawing the inspiration for the keywords from the wrong place. Here's a little bit of insider information, guys. Job postings are notoriously terrible at having appropriate, effective keywords. What you're going to find is outdated stuff. You're going to stuff that's formulated in a non-standardized way. Uncommon is not good for ATS systems. All sorts of things. Where you want to draw this from is your competitors, right? So simply put, if I was looking for a chief operating officer role within the logistics and supply chain industry, I would do a LinkedIn search that would here, and I can actually pull this up so you guys can see it. What I would do is I would do a LinkedIn search right through the search. You want to do a people search, and what you want to do is, using all filters, you want to put in the right ones. You want to put in what the current industries are that you're focusing on, and with that, you want to start pulling up what are the top tier COOs. And if you look at their profiles, right? So I'm just going to pull up one person. Thanks for being used as an example, Janice. But if I just pop this in here, okay, from your most visible competitors, this is where you want to draw your keywords, okay? And again, I want to encourage all of you guys when it comes to keywords, okay? You want to think strategically about it, right? It's not just about one or the other. Think about high-level strategic leadership words, executive keywords, cross-functional team leadership, strategic planning, change management, strategic partnerships, etc. You also want to intersperse that with more detailed ones, right? FDA is one for this person. GCP is another one there. You see what I'm saying? I want to drill in so you have that depth. And I want to have both of those things playing a little bit here. I don't want to have, look, you can go up to 50 keywords in LinkedIn. You definitely should not have that much there because, again, it just shows desperation. But a nice little tight amount here, you know, however much this is. I mean, it's not a science, but having something that just closes out this top third in this way and has a nice balance between the high level and the hardline keywords will have a big impact on the effectiveness and the traction of the resume across every way in which it's going to be evaluated. All right, so let me pop in and just deactivate the share screen for a second. Cut out the fluff, right? Got to make this really, really clear, guys. The corporate verbiage, the stuff that is basically, you know, sounds good, but, you know, has nothing there. If I can't challenge you and say, what do you mean by this? And where did the inspiration for this come from? Where did this originate from? You say you're a healthcare innovator, right? I branded this person as a healthcare innovator. There's 5 to 6 things that this person has done, which I coached them through that they can use as immediate leverage for that, right? So I'm not waiting there. Like, and it's important that you do the work too, right? I'm not waiting to be discovered as healthcare innovator. Fantastic. You want to ask me about that? Boom. I got a lead in and now I'm sharing one of those and then I'm flipping it over. Does that make sense? Does that resonate with where you guys are at? Now we're off to the races, right? Cut out the fluff. Keep it simple, right? Anyone from any industry should be able to look at your resume and in less than 20 seconds should be able to look at it and be impressed and should say, okay, there's unique value here. Has to be there, okay? Numbers and data points, okay? Got to do it, all right? I'm seeing a lot of generalized resumes with generalized accomplishments. Guys, we're all adults here. Saying like I was able to do a wonderful culture change that had this other untrackable thing, it's bullshit. It's nothing. You may as well not have it. So take the time, find those numbers, or at least give me a ballpark, right? If you know for sure, if you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you getting in and reinventing the existing product lines with an eye towards reinventing our entire customer journey and growth strategy ultimately, if you know that there is no way that we're not getting double digits here in that first year, why aren't you highlighting it? Why aren't you taking ownership for it? Why are we so scared to own up to what makes us special, human, amazing? If we're not going to do it when you're going to get a role, you're never going to do it. That's not bragging, guys. That's the people who never got you, their voice going on in your mind. That's not bragging. Taking ownership about what you can do or saying, you know what, I've helped companies get new technology off their ground. Can I just take responsibility for the strategy already? And say that my advantage is that I'm not an ivory tower strategist, that I'm bringing 20 years to this, which allows me to dialogue, allows me to help this company at this stage navigate through the pitfalls they can't see. You can do that all the time, right? So cut out the fluff, and here's the checklist. Let me drop the link in for you guys as well. I'm going to put it in the comments as well so you guys can grab it. Okay, this is a checklist that goes a little bit deeper and consolidates all of this so you can use it as your visual resource before you send this thing out. Right? I want you to use it as that visual resource, okay? I want you to go through the 6 points. Ask yourself, am I hitting this? Am I hitting this, right? Am I credibly hitting these 7 points, basically, right? And which is exactly what I do, by the way. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop it in. Here's the checklist, all right? The checklist. Download it, guys. You're going to love it. Totally free. I just want you to have it. I want you to use it. All right. I want you to benefit from it. And ideally, I want you to stop investing more and more and more time on branding and marketing and quote unquote career resources and tools that are not putting you in contact with new people, that are not allowing you to meet new people. I know you're like, that how obvious, but I just want to say it, right? If you're not talking to new people, if you're not building new relationships, right? If you're not spreading the gospel of help and helping right now, there's no real traction. You're just sitting at home playing around with an MS Word document. That was why I wanted to put this LinkedIn Live together. That's why I'm doing it for you guys, even though you're not my clients, right? I want to stop you wasting time. And if that means that for a while you have to deal with the vacuum of, oh, I was job searching for 20 hours and Anish just told me to stop doing that. Oh, what else can I do? Good. That will result in you putting some investments into those other areas. And that's how it happens, right? But in the meantime, use this as the checklist. Use this as the way that'll help you to say, hey, before I go down the rabbit hole, right? What are the points that every employer is going to be looking at, right? The companies, do they stand out in that way? Chronological, action verbiage, job hopper perception. Have I controlled for that? Is there a narrative build that is going on there? If not, I can consolidate experience, create a DBA, all the parts that we were talking about, right? Why you, pal, right? Are you owning that first third of that, right? Are you owning those keywords? Remember, don't use job postings for those keywords. Use your competitors. Higher level. Get used to swimming in these water, guys. The most boring aspect of getting ahead should be the offer. You should know all of that before you get into that room. You should know it all. You should have done all the research to be ready, empowered to know this is my time. This is my time. This is it. And if I don't own this now with this energy, I'm never going to have another shot at this. That's the way I want you to think about it. And utilizing keywords, as we said, cut out the fluff. All right. Hope that makes sense. Download this checklist. Use it as a resource. All right. Talk to you guys soon. Follow me on LinkedIn. Keep it going and expect more from yourself this year. Talk soon.